Picture 1969. California is entirely on edge, just terrified of this shadowed, faceless guy who mailed a highly secretive letter to a local newspaper. Except it wasn't a letter made of normal words. It was this terrifying, mind-bending block of weird shapes. We're talking dark boxes, spooky little circles, distorted letters, a cipher. Basically a puzzle hiding a secret message where you absolutely need a special key to read it. But the sender? He kept that key totally hidden in the dark. If you stared at this grid, you'd count exactly 340 of these strange symbols, perfectly lined up across 20 lines of code. You'd think with all the absolute top minds at the FBI and military code experts going at it, they'd crack it, right? But they just couldn't. It completely stumped everyone. So 50 long years just kind of slip by. The guy vanishes into thin air, and honestly, most of the world just forgets all about this creepy puzzle. But in internet rabbit holes, there are always people who just can't let a mystery go. Enter David. This guy from America who was completely obsessed with solving puzzles and decided he was going to find those hidden words. He spent years in the dark working on it entirely by himself, just staring at symbols that made absolutely zero sense. To understand why this thing was so impossible, you kind of have to look at how ciphers normally work. Regular ones use substitution. They just swap one letter for one symbol. Very easy. But the killer made his puzzle infinitely harder by scrambling the actual direction of the words. Imagine you write a secret sentence on a piece of paper. Take a pair of scissors, cut it into tiny pieces, and just throw them high up into the air so all the words mix up before hitting the ground. That weird, chaotic pattern where you can't just read left to right anymore, that is called a transposition. A normal computer trying to brute force that kind of absolute chaos would literally take 1,000,000 years to test all the patterns. David was in way too deep, and he desperately needed backup. So he teams up with Sam, this brilliant math expert from Australia, who knew exactly how to make computers test thousands of these weird patterns incredibly fast. Sam tells the machine to just start shuffling all those symbols around, creating hundreds of thousands of new variations to try and fix the mess. And then they bring in Jarl, a computer programmer from Belgium who built this ridiculously fast code-breaking machine called AZ Decrypt. It started scanning Sam's shuffled puzzles at lightning speed, desperately hunting for any real English words. This team was basically working around the clock, testing millions of combinations, and for the longest time, they got absolutely nothing. But then, they tried this bizarre new pattern. They moved down one row and over two spaces, exactly the way a knight moves on a chessboard. And when they made this weird diagonal move, it suddenly unmixed a few of the letters. The computer paused and found the word hope, just sitting there, hidden in the dark. Finding a real word is everything, you know? It means you are finally going the right way, even if the rest of the puzzle is still a total mess. The reason it was still a mess led them to this massive realization. The cipher wasn't just one big block of text, like everyone assumed for 50 years. The sender had actually sliced it into 3 separate pieces. They broke it down into these very distinct chunks. The top 9 rows, the next 9 rows, and then these tiny, weird last 2 rows at the bottom that had to be solved completely on their own. You can just imagine the pure adrenaline they felt when they took that diagonal move, applied it just to the opening chunk, and suddenly all these actual words just started popping right out of the grid. The letters started forming this incredibly chilling sentence. It read, "I hope you are having fun trying to catch me." It sounded exactly like him, right? Just endlessly teasing the police from the shadows. But the puzzle wasn't fully cooperating quite yet, because the author purposely made all these weird spelling mistakes to confuse everyone even more. Like, he misspelled the word paradise by cramming an extra letter right inside it, which honestly is exactly how he misspelled things in his regular uncoded letters. So it proved without a doubt that this was actually him. Now that middle section of 9 rows was incredibly tricky. The diagonal pattern just wasn't working perfectly, and the words were still refusing to unscramble. David leaned in, stared closely at the grid, and realized the author actually messed up his own code. He had skipped a space. This one tiny mistake completely threw off the entire grid. It is perfectly like when you skip a single button while putting on your shirt, and suddenly the whole thing is crooked and wrong. But once David figured that out and virtually fixed that skipped button, the words instantly flowed, and a really clear message about a specific television show revealed itself. So, a long time ago, this random guy actually went on a local television show and completely falsely claimed to be the killer. And apparently the real killer was sitting at home watching this and getting super angry about someone stealing his spotlight. The cipher literally said, "That was not me" on the TV show, confirming that the guy on screen was just a faker. But the message also started talking about gas chambers, saying he wasn't afraid of them, which just proved how deeply twisted this person really was. And they still had that final bottom chunk left, the tiny one with only 2 rows, which ended up being the absolute hardest piece to break because the pattern barely functioned at all. To crack those final 2 lines, the team essentially had to work backwards, slowly filling in the blanks by guessing missing letters, using the fragments of words they had already decoded. And what appeared was this crazy, deeply disturbing story about slaves. The author wrote that he believed he was collecting souls and that the people he hurt would serve him in the afterlife. Obviously, this is a totally fake, made-up idea, but this terrifying guy truly believed it in his own mind. Still, through all this darkness, everyone was just desperately hoping that the very end of the cipher would finally reveal his real name. But when they finally translated that very last symbol and read the whole message, there was absolutely no name anywhere. Just 0. The entire thing was just him bragging. Just a loud, insecure bully who desperately wanted to feel important and wanted people to keep talking about him. But even without a name, you just have to feel this pure amazement for David and his team. They looked at an entirely impossible puzzle, and they solved it. They beat this scary guy, totally taking away his ultimate secret after 51 years. They took everything they found and sent their final answer straight to the FBI, because the FBI has some wildly smart code breakers who needed to verify the math. And they totally did. They looked at the diagonal pattern, the 3 chunks, and exactly how David fixed those skipped spaces, and the math was absolutely flawless. The FBI went to the press, told the world the truth, thanked David, Sam, and Jarl, and turned them into absolute heroes. Just imagine the pure shock spreading across the internet, a 50-year-old secret out in the open. Sure, it didn't physically catch the bad guy, but it completely ruined his big secret and stripped him of his power over people. Going down this rabbit hole really proves something amazing. Computers have this incredibly raw strength, but math still absolutely needs smart, persistent humans to solve real mysteries. It was this beautiful teamwork, Sam shuffling the chaos, Jarl's software hunting through it, and David using his very human brain to catch the tiny mistakes, because they completely needed each other. And honestly, the irony is just delicious. This monster thought he was so much smarter than everyone else on the planet, but it was his own sloppy mistake that brought his perfect puzzle down. If he hadn't skipped that one single space, it probably stays a secret forever. It just goes to show you, bullies always make sloppy mistakes. So, if there's anything to take away from this wild ride, it's that you should literally never give up. When a problem looks way too big and scary, maybe you just need a new tool, or maybe you just need to find some new friends to help you look at it differently. David sat in the dark trying alone for years and got nowhere, but the exact second he asked for help, they won. This 340 cipher is locked in the history books forever, proving that all secrets eventually fall apart. Human teamwork beat the monster in the end, and honestly, I think that is totally beautiful. If you loved diving into this mystery with me, make sure to smash that like button, share this with your fellow puzzle solvers, and definitely hit subscribe so we can keep going down these rabbit holes together. Stay curious,